Welcome to Moon Monkey. On this episode, we're going to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson. It follows on from Force Awakens, different director. New Star Wars doesn't live up to the 2-year wait and the hype.
Yeah.
Does it? No pressure.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Alright. Well, thanks for listening.
So Last Jedi, it's getting very mixed reviews. So I guess on this episode we'll just sort of be going through some of what we thought were the issues with it, and what we thought of the film.
Yeah.
So I think the best place to start is obviously with The Force Awakens, they rebooted, sort of a reboot of the franchise. It was coming back to after there was a few years wait since the Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, there was.
And this was sort of like a new version of Star Wars because it's obviously was bought over by Disney.
Yeah.
And you had an introduction of new cast: Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, and these were sort of like your new trio. And Poe Dameron, that's like your new trio, your new cast of characters, along with the old. And I thought I liked Force Awakens. It did a good job of blending the old with the new, and it sort of set us up for this new trilogy. So with The Last Jedi, takes place directly after where Force Awakens ended.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we did a Force Awakens review way back when we started doing this. That was one of the first reviews we ever did. So this is sort of... We've been waiting for this for 2 years now to see the continuation of that story. The first thing I would say that I found kind of a disappointment about the film was the plot. It sort of not very much happens in it. The Force Awakens took you on a real journey. You started on with Rey on Jakku, and you went to she went on her adventure, met Han Solo. They fought against the Empire. People criticised it because it was too close to New Hope, but a lot was happening in the film, and it set up a lot of things. Yeah, it was a little overloaded because you had all the new characters plus trying to do all the old characters.
Well, I don't think you really had a lot of old characters in the first one.
Well, Han Solo was in it, and Leia was introduced in it.
Yeah,
it was.
She didn't hog the screen time in the Force Awakens, so it's I didn't like. I know we're not even talking about Last Jedi, but I don't like Force Awakens because basically they're blowing up a Death Star again. And, they've had loads of time to think of something new.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like this is a bit rushed, and it did have J.J. Abrams doing The Force Awakens. And this one, they've got a different director. Maybe that wasn't their plan, but they've done it. And it feels like it doesn't really have the same flow of the first one.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a new guy's vision, which is really annoying, because if any questions you had from Force Awakens are not really answered in this one.
But The Force Awakens... Other than the criticism that it was similar, there was the Death Star, it was the same plot. In the end, people, I don't think people were that down on the new characters. Everyone seemed to like the new characters. The action scenes were good. The story was entertaining.
But getting back to Last Jedi.
So with Last Jedi, it starts off the film starts off, and it's essentially a very extended chase sequence with the rebels trying to get away from. General Hux? Is it General Hux, played by Donald Gleeson?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what his title is. I know it's Hux, but I don't know if he's got...
Yeah, they completely ruined him. That's the first thing. They completely ruined Hux. He was quite intimidating in the first one. Now he's just a joke.
Yeah, with Poe Dameron putting him on hold and doing a your mama joke, basically.
Yeah, a bit of a strange way to open the long-anticipated Star Wars movie.
Yeah. They kind of undermine the tension all the way through, because that scene... in the originals, when they attacked the Death Star, when they attacked, any of the ships, people got killed. Or in this, a lot of people get killed. But Poe's just shown that he can kind of take on one of those ships by himself. Yeah. Which sort of means, the Dreadnought's not as much of a threat as it should be.
The First Order is just not very intimidating at all, because, at least in in Star Wars, you had the Death Star, it blew up Alderaan, you're like, oh my god, it blew up Alderaan.
Yeah.
In front of Leia, and you're like, oh, this is really, and but this is...
But there was always...
They're not intimidating at all.
There always seemed a lot of planning and a lot of strategy, and also in, previously, the rebels were always hiding out, and it's a lot of... Because they can't take on the Empire directly. Whereas in this, it seems on a whim, they could just go after the First Order whenever they want. It's just they kept choosing not to.
Well, it seems like Poe Dameron could take out a ship, but it doesn't seem like they could win an all-out battle.
But that's the thing, it's they're not showing any fear about, attacking attacking that ship.
Well, they
whereas in the original, it was kind of like the ships were really terrifying.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I mean, like, it's not like they do well.
Oh, yeah,
they basically
well.
they lost their base and they lose everybody.
He basically gets most of their troop wiped out except for himself. Which is the other thing where it's like he's sort of I know in the original's similar, but he is sort of like an invincible superhero. Like, he never seems to be in any danger. Because it's one of those, like, you're so sure that he's the hero, there's no way that he's ever going to be killed in the film.
You say that. Wait till they reboot this one in 20 years. He'll die immediately.
Wait till the follow-on to this film. He dies in the first scene. So yeah, that's like the main part of the film. It's so you have them, and as people have pointed out, there's plenty of plot holes, such as them being able to now jump through hyperspace, but even though the First Order aren't lacking any fuel, somehow they can't catch up with the ships who are like a slight distance in front of them.
That was really
It's such a convoluted plot.
Yeah, and also fuel's now an issue. Yeah, it's not a very. Yeah, again, you've got time to think about this. Like, it's not like you've had ages to come up with something. It's like, we'll just have them run out of petrol. Well, not petrol, but you know what I mean.
But it's like you could have even done something similar plot-wise. Like, the rebels are hiding out, and the First Order are trying to find them, and it's taking them like a long time to find them. It was just the setup was kind of full of plot holes.
Yeah, it was pretty weak.
But there's another way to do like the same idea, but just in a different way. And then one of the plots, which is getting a lot of stick, was Finn wakes up from his coma, and he has to go off with Rose, who's an engineer on the ship, and they've got to go find.
Let's say something nice, because we both really
find
like
the tracking
Rose.
beacon.
You really
Oh
like
yeah,
Rose. Yeah.
This is what I was going to say. This plot I've seen is getting a lot of stick from people, but I actually thought this was the most sort of Star Wars-y part of the film, albeit reminiscent of the prequels, Star Wars prequels, but it had this sort of Star Wars action-adventure vibe, which I didn't feel the rest of it had. Because they go off, they have a specific mission, they've got to go off and find a hacker,
but they
tracking drive.
They do it terribly.
Oh yeah. And also, like, in the conclusion of this, it all turns out that it's pointless because they didn't need it in the end anyway. So it was a complete waste of time. But I felt like Rose was a good character because she was just like essentially a lowly mechanic, but she had the belief and that sort of, you know, optimism that Star Wars was always about. It's about the hope. It's about the anybody can fight against the evil.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that they do well is it's like anybody can do it. Anybody can be a member of the resistance and change things and all that. You know, that they got that across well, and especially with the little kid at the end in the resistance ring and whatever. And it's like looking up to the stars. Like anybody can do it. You don't need Luke Skywalker or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean that's.
So this was like
in my opinion, you do need Luke Skywalker because it's a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, one of like the main themes of the film was that there are no special people. That anybody is essentially special. That anyone can fight against the Empire and anyone can have that power. Basically, like, you don't have to be born, which sort of goes against what they've taught
you. You do have to be born.
I know, but sorry, born like a Jedi or born with like force powers or whatever. It's
you
like
do need to be alive.
Anyone can fight. Yeah, you do need to be alive to help. If dead is no good to anyone. That's no good to the First Order or the Resistance. But yeah, like in the originals, it was sort of like there were ordinary people fighting, but you also had the epic fantasy element of there are people with force powers, which this film kind of sidetracks that and basically says, like there is no sort of heritage. So if we want to get on to like the thing that was probably most annoyed people, which is the third story, I guess, or this other story, part of the story, which is Luke Skywalker.
Oh, that's got to be the main story.
Well, the main story is like them escaping from the thing.
Oh, I feel like that's.
The Finn and Rose is a side story.
Oh yeah,
I give you that. But the Luke and Rey anyway.
I feel like that's the main event for me.
But in terms of like the plot, because where the plot ends up.
Oh, the plot's rubbish. So who cares about it?
Okay, so the main draw for you anyway,
the main draw is like, oh, you've got then the
back.
Force Awakens, you've got her handing the lightsaber, and you're like, what's going to happen there? That was the main draw for me, was to go back and see what's he going to say, what's going to happen.
Well, the end of Force Awakens, you thought that was going to be the main plot, but I would say in this film it turns out that's not really the main plot.
But it's still the main draw.
But this kind of leads us into that, because as we were saying, like, the theme is sort of like anyone can be a hero, whereas in the original it was like Luke Skywalker is the ultimate, like, using the Force, and it was essentially like a hero's journey, and he was the hero. It was all about Luke Skywalker. So in this film, a lot of people are very annoyed how they treated him. So do you want to share your thoughts on that?
Well, I just feel like they've really just completely shit on the entire Star Wars mythos that a lot of people really liked it for, was the Jedi and the Sith, and basically just decided that that's not what it's about anymore. We're going to just do something else. And I think it's just in one thing, it's been voted into the top 10 sci-fi movies ever, which I find really hard to take. Yeah, because we went at 12, like a lot of people did, and it was a really weird atmosphere in the theatre. Yeah, and it just felt, watching it just felt empty, and it didn't really feel like a Star Wars movie, which is kind of sad. You can't say that about Force Awakens, because it's, if anything, it's just like a homage to.
I'd say people were shocked into silence at that midnight screen. I don't think people knew what to think.
No, it's a really weird atmosphere, and it just didn't. It felt really empty and quite vacuous compared to like a Star Wars movie, which has this kind of like magical feeling to it. Like, admittedly, the first three movies, like A New Hope and Empire, Jedi.
Tonally, it was a little off. Like
tonally, it was atrocious. Tonally, it's not a Star Wars movie.
With the comedy, I think the issue with the comedy is in all of the other Star Wars, they've always had comedy, but it's always the characters providing the comedy. Whereas in this, it felt like the filmmakers were laughing at Star Wars, basically making fun of what they were doing. It was really like knowing self-referential humour in a way.
It's like they've given some Star Trek fans the keys to Star Wars.
Yeah, it was sort of like, even in the original scene with Poe and Hux, it was sort of like, look, this is ridiculous. Like, they weren't taking their own film seriously. So it's like, how is the audience meant to take it seriously?
Yeah.
You're not being serious about
this. Like, it just loses all feeling about it, you know? Like, the whole thing about it, they're just, like, taking the piss out of.
There were a couple of scenes where I felt like that's sort of Star Wars humour. But they were putting humour in all the time, as though they were really worried. I've heard the director, Rian Johnson, says in an interview, they were worried that the film was going to be really downbeat, so they decided to put in a lot of humour to try and make it light. But it
doesn't work.
No, it's like, if you're going to go dark, just go dark. Yeah. People love dark films. Like, that wasn't really the problem. The problem was, like, nothing's happening in the film, and then you're throwing jokes in. It's like, well, there's no... And that was the thing, there was no real moment of sort of building to, like, any kind of climax. So even at the end of the film, it just felt like we haven't really moved. No one's really developed as a character.
I think Kylo Ren's become more mental,
but he's
more
sort of
unstable.
Like, but if you think of like where he was at the end of the first film, that's where he was. He goes through a lot of changes in this, but he ends up at the same place.
But it gives him more of it gives you more of an insight into why he's such a dick.
Yeah, I guess so. But
I agree. There's nothing else that really. But again, long, really.
Like, what's annoyed people, and the thing that I'm not even a big Star Wars fan, but I knew that wasn't Luke Skywalker when he's considering killing somebody, almost on like, just on an instinct. I thought I might just kill him. Yeah, because as people have pointed out, his whole thing was like, Darth Vader, one of the most evil Sith people in this universe. Luke Skywalker believed in him and believed that he could be saved. Whereas Kylo Ren exhibits like, he's turned a little bit to the dark side. I might just kill him. It was kind of like, so like, what, you're not going to give him a chance? You're not going to ask him? Like, see if you can help him? Like, Luke Skywalker's meant to be like, pure and always thinking the best of people and always trying to help. But in this, he was just kind of like, really bitter and jaded. And acting, the whole plot was essentially set off by something that was really out of character.
I like
kind of weird.
I'm going to share a theory here. I like to think it's all been Luke still on the island, and it's just from drinking all that blue milk straight out the tap, and it's affected his mind, and it's all been a bit of a dream.
This was all a fever dream.
Yeah, and he's going to wake up and they're going to redo the movie. There's actually a petition to wipe this from Star Wars canon.
Yeah, I have seen that. I did like Yoda's cameo.
Yeah, again, I think that again, that's a milk fever dream again. That's just.
I mean, it was a shame it was in such a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I suppose like they did put it in there.
It's a shame because like as much as I had issues with Force Awakens, I thought I was really excited for this, and it just has loads of problems because anything that built in Force Awakens, like Snoke, Rey's parents.
No, we didn't even discuss Snoke.
Yeah,
like the big bad guy for Force Awakens gets killed.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And who is he? What It's a total middle finger to like the previous movie and to the fans.
It does seem like we discussed this. Like, surely they planned out this story, 3-movie story. But it does seem like one person's made the first film and then someone else has come along. It's like, what's the game you play where you fold the paper over, where one person writes the first line and then someone else writes the second line, like Consequences. Yeah. It seems like that. Like JJ's written the first part. Rian Johnson, without knowing what's happened, has just decided with these characters to write something else, and it's like the two parts don't fit together. And now you've got the third part, which everyone's not excited for because it's kind of you've killed off most of the people we were interested in, and also sort of like what's it building to? What are we expecting?
People are like, it's really exciting. I don't know what they're going for, but it's like, I don't know what they're going for.
Yeah,
you've got nothing. Like, why am I tuning into the next one?
I've no idea where it's going, but it's not exciting.
No, it's lost a bit of the edge.
The only thing like that's still there really is Rey and Kylo fighting. Yeah. But they fought in the first film. They fought in the second film. You're basically just going to go back to watch them fight again in the third film.
They've already did the thing where she tried to get him to turn and redeem him. So what are they going to do now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, it's like kind of riffing back on older stuff, like with the older films. Like some people have said, maybe with Force Awakens they should have just like made an entirely new cast of characters, like not try and tie it in at all. I think it was the fact that Force Awakens tried to tie it into like the Force, and they mentioned the Force a lot and the Jedi. So you thought, this is going to be like the Jedi and the Sith again, and it sort of is because Rey can use the Force.
Yeah. No, but the whole movie was spent saying let's let everything die.
Yeah, that's.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like they're not following on.
It is just incredibly confusing.
It just doesn't seem to follow on. You're right. But a lot of people think like J.J. Abrams doesn't actually like his whole thing is the mystery, but he doesn't actually have answers to his own mysteries. But he just writes the mystery to get you to come back again and watch the next episode.
Yeah,
but there's no answer to the mysteries. So maybe that's the thing. It's just like he's maybe been like, I don't know any of these answers to these questions. Just do what you want.
But those could have been resolved. Like there's any number of ways they could have been resolved.
They could have,
but it's not really an answer to just like kill off a character or just say, that mystery is not important. That was.
Well, I mean, you can do that, but maybe not with one of the biggest movies of all time.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So. Like, you can do that if you just don't have the answers. But
it is frustrating because people are saying, it's different. Like, it was so unexpected, but it's like that's not really how a story works. You can't set something up. Like, it's like with Lord of the Rings. Like, if Sauron had have died in movie 2, it would have been unexpected. But then it's like, why would I go back for movie 3? Like, you've destroyed the thing that the whole thing's building towards this conflict, and you've just ruined it. Just to balance some of the things that I did like about the movie, I thought some of the cinematography was really good. Some of the shots, like Leia looking out of the blast doors when they were on the planet at the end, and the shot that like everyone's mentioned where the ship goes straight through the enemy Star Destroyer. It's not a Star Destroyer. The names of the ships. Well, whatever the enemy ship is.
Snoke's big massive ship.
Yeah, and
there's a scientific term.
And they sort of cut the sound as she shoots through light speed through the ship. That was a really nice shot. And some of it was really well shot, and the effects were really nice. But it was just the fact that the plot was undermining everything. Like, you weren't invested in any of the characters. It's like you said coming out, you couldn't care less when anyone was on screen other than, like, Rey and Kylo.
I really like the stuff where Rey, like some of the stuff where Rey and Kylo was interesting. I think Kylo Ren's an interesting character. Just weird that they had him shirtless for some reason, and then commented on the fact that he was shirtless as well. I found that a bit weird. I find a lot of the dialogue, especially Finn's dialogue, was really.
Someone I heard talk about this said maybe a better idea would have been to make this Kylo's story, Because
Well,
then
maybe it is.
you would have kind of had Anakin's story,
Yeah.
then Luke's story, then Kylo's story. So it's all about three people struggling with the Force and which way to go with the Force.
It most likely will be. A lot of people think like Kylo's going to become like the hero in the third one, but
Yeah.
I think we're really going to struggle to do that.
But I suppose because this is really set up, it's sort of been set up as Rey's story,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird because now they've essentially said that like she's not really
She's
tied
not part
in with
they
anyone
literally
else.
had a line saying you've got no part in the story.
Yeah, that's true. Which was kind of an odd thing to do.
Yeah,
Since the others are always like the other films are always like an ensemble cast, but it's essentially about sort of one hero or one person, and the others are like their team around them. Whereas this seems to be setting up more of like everyone has a role to play. I think that's what the people who like it, I think that's what they like. The idea that, Finn and Poe and Rose, like everyone's just equal. Like there is no hero; they're all the same. But it sort of makes it uninteresting because you're essentially watching sort of just like a drama. Like there's no focus to it. It's just this could just rumble on forever. Like you can, I think that's Disney's idea. But that's what people feel like. You've totally undermined like any drive the film had or the franchise had.
Well, a lot of people really, really liked it, especially critics. Critically, it's done really well.
Yeah,
I mean, even a lot of people I've spoke to, like, even though they acknowledge, like, some of it didn't really make a lot of sense, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But the first time I saw it, I really thought it was awful, and I wanted to like it. I don't want to be one of these. I'm sure there's loads of people that are moaning about it and reviewing it and saying it's bad, but I really wanted to like it. And the first time I just really didn't, and it was quite upsetting. That I went, stayed up really late, got home at like 5 a.m. after seeing it and driving home, and I was just like, wasn't that good?
Yeah.
The second time I got more about where they were going, because basically it's just about killing everything Star Wars was about and making a new Star Wars. But is that really what everybody wants? I don't know. Why would you bring back Star Wars to then destroy it?
I thought it was average the first time we saw it, and then when we went back, I was actively trying to like it and latch on to stuff that was good and see what other people are seeing, because I felt like people's praise is so effusive for this. I thought I must be missing something. Yeah. Either I've just totally misunderstood what it's about. So I was actively trying the second time and did get a little more out of it. Like I could see some things that I hadn't noticed the first time. But still the central plot was really dragged and was really quite boring. And what they did with the characters essentially just undermined the whole story for me. So yeah, it's... I don't even know, like... if you could recommend this film.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, you've got to, like, the thing is, like, everybody's so invested in it, you've got to go and see it. Like, you can't not go if you want to know, like, the next part of it, and so many people do. But basically, they can just put out anything they want, and people will go.
But the weird thing...
Which is sad.
But that was the weird thing, like, that's what I'm saying, not a lot happened in it. Yeah. At the end of the first one, you have Rey, who's really powerful in the Force, and you have Kylo, who's like a Sith Lord. At the end of this film, Rey's still powerful in the Force and Kylo's the bad guy, and they're going to fight. You could literally go from 1 to 3, and essentially in 3 it'll be like, oh yeah, those people died along the way. I don't think like the second part really adds anything that you have to see.
A lot of people have said this is, like, of all the Star Wars movies, the most pointless of all Star Wars movies, because it doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, you could skip it and still know where you were with this next one. Which you... Other than like, okay, those characters are gone, but it's kind of like, yeah, they just died in between the two films.
Yeah, they don't really...
It wouldn't be that shock. It wouldn't be that like, oh, I totally can't follow this next film now. You'd be like, we're pretty much where we were at the end of the last one.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have...
Other than Rey's back, it'd be like, oh yeah, Rey's back now.
Well, Laura Dern died, but you didn't know much about Laura Dern to begin with.
Well, that's the thing, she was only in this film.
I know, I don't really get why they had her character. Like, they could have had anybody do that. They could have had Admiral Akbar do that.
Yeah.
They could have had Leia do that. That'd been a really cool way for her to go out. I know maybe, like, they thought she was going to be there for the third one. Sadly, she's not.
Yeah.
But, like, there's stuff like that. And the floating through space thing, it was just really... didn't really work for me either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's it just felt like it wasn't really a Star Wars movie, and a lot of it was just really thrown in so people could get little cameos and little parts and say certain lines, and which is nice if you're that person, but overall to the story it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
But there's just so many... Out of the three that's been done, like the spin-off, like Rogue One, that's been the most Star Warsy for me. I'd rather it was more like that film.
It felt
the way it's went.
Yeah, it felt like, but like now it's owned by Disney. I don't want to go like too hard on like the politics of this thing, but because it's become like a big franchise, and they're obviously wanting these movies to come out every year, it's become sort of like, some people have also said, like the Marvel films. It's become like the Star Wars TV show. So it's like there's going to be an episode, 2.5 hour long episode every year of this TV show. So this is like a really like poor episode, if you like. Whereas the original films were films. Like you could sit and watch it as a film, and there was enough happening in it, and it had a plot arc in that film. Whereas this just feels like it's just like a filler episode while you're waiting to get to like the season finale.
The only thing I can say...
That's what I kind of feel, the vibe of it. It was like, not a lot's happening here.
I think like the whole next episode will probably be about re-establishing the resistance against the First Order. And because it's constantly like, we're going to be the fire to light the resistance. We don't need Luke Skywalker. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
As the whole thing is like, we've all done stuff. It's all contributed. We don't really need legends and heroes anymore. It's just all of us, and we'll change the universe kind of thing. And maybe like the third one will be like them bringing back the resistance, because basically now they can all fit in one ship from 3 big massive ship. That's what I mean. Like they've totally it's just they've undermined everything. They've undermined like the Jedi, the Sith, the Resistance, the First Order. It's like what you know, like there's nothing really to do. Which you never thought you'd say when you're like rebooting a Star Wars. You never thought you'd be sitting there going, what have they got left to do now? It was like they've killed off everybody as well, and it don't really. There's just something missing. I can't put my finger on it, which is a shame, because it should have been a really good one. And it wasn't.
Yeah, just a lot of issues with plot and script, which is a shame, because I thought a lot of the acting was pretty good, and obviously, like on a production of this level, like the sets and the costumes and the special effects are always like top notch. So it's kind of a shame to have wasted them on a really sort of nothing happens plot.
Well, the costume designer's coming back. You'll be pleased to know.
The film that like I often go on about, The Hobbit, is like terrible scripts and way too overlong, but there are good people working on it, doing costumes and effects and sets and things. So it's like, even though it's pretty bad, like there's still something there to enjoy and be like, oh, it's like cool how they did the robots and now they did this special effect and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just like you're not really engaged in it. You're just watching it, kind of like, oh, that's a cool thing that they did with CG.
Yeah, it just felt like a really weak non-Star Wars cash-in movie, and like the casino scene just really sums up for me.
Yeah,
like coins being put into.
I mean, it felt like a spin-off movie. It felt like it wasn't meant to be part of the central saga.
And do you know you were dying to see Lando, and like they actually thought about it, and they were like, nah.
Oh yeah, that would have been great in the casino. Lando Calrissian. Maybe they'll bring him back for the third one.
I don't. What they'll probably just execute him immediately. First scene, Lando in a guillotine.
Yeah, but it is kind of a shame what's happened to it.
Yeah, So
I suppose like if you're a Star Wars fan, you've probably already been to see it opening weekend anyway. If you're not a Star Wars fan, I doubt this is going to grab you, because the only real draw for this is knowing like who certain people are. But this plot itself, like, there's not really a lot that's entertaining there, unless you're already invested in the characters. And if you are invested in the characters, it's probably just going to ruin them for you.
Yeah, I really wanted to like it, but it's just a pretty average movie.
Yeah,
for me. I mean, maybe I'll watch it again and think, oh, it's not as bad. But yeah it could
have just done with trimming down. Like it could have done. Like the chase sequence could have been shorter.
For me, it's not the time. It's just the content.
But but not a lot happened in it. But not a lot happened for a long time. If they'd have trimmed it down, it would have been bad. But at least it would have been like under 2 hours. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think something wasn't right with it. I just don't think
the story they were telling didn't need that length of time. That's what I'm saying. It could have been kind of. Oh right, they're chased to that planet and then they have to escape, and Luke's kind of just a bitter old man now and he's given up.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go to see Molly's game.
Or Ferdinand
the Bill, yeah. So there you go. Go and see Ferdinand and Molly's game. Don't see Star Wars again. You're just encouraging them.
Well, that was our review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back again soon.